Jakarta had already been buzzing for days before Lee Chae-min even set foot in the city. But nothing could have prepared the fans for what would unfold inside the packed Jakarta International Theatre on the humid, electrifying night. From early morning, hundreds of fans began lining up outside the venue. Some carrying handmade banners, some wearing matching shirts printed with the actor's face, and others clutching light sticks imported from Korea. By the time the doors opened, the air was drenched in anticipation. A kind of trembling excitement unique to Southeast Asian fan culture, raw, expressive, and unrestrained. When Lee Chae-min finally appeared on stage, dressed in a simple white shirt and black slacks that somehow heightened his gentle, almost boyish charm, the entire hall erupted in a wall of sound so loud that even he paused for a moment, stunned by the intensity of the welcome Jakarta had prepared for him. The fan meeting opened with a short highlight reel of his dramas, and the moment the lights brightened and he stepped into the spotlight, the screams were deafening. "Apa, Chae-min." The noise wasn't just loud, it shook through the wooden panels of the hall. His smile widened with every cheer, his eyes softening as he placed a hand on his chest, bowing gently to express gratitude. There was a warmth in his posture, a sincerity that could be felt even in the very last row. After the initial greetings, the conversation section began. A large screen behind him displayed questions submitted by fans, ranging from light-hearted ones about his favorite Indonesian food to more personal ones about his acting journey. He answered each one with a mix of humility and humor, often glancing shyly toward the crowd when their reactions grew too strong. Fans laughed, screamed, even cried during some segments, especially when he spoke about his struggles during his trainee days. The atmosphere felt like a shared confession between him and thousands of people, deeply intimate despite the size of the venue. But everything changed when the Q&A entered what was supposed to be a harmless, playful segment, role models and inspirations. The host read the question while the crowd quieted down in anticipation. Who is someone who inspired you the most in your career as an actor? It was a polite question, one he had likely answered dozens of times before. No one expected anything unusual. The fans remained calm, their voices dimming to a soft murmur as they leaned forward, eager to hear him speak. Yet the instant he took a breath, his expression shifted subtly, just enough for those watching attentively to sense that something unexpected was coming. He held the microphone with both hands, his fingers tightening slightly around it. Gaze drifted downward as if searching carefully for the right words. Then he lifted his head, filled with a sincerity that made fans instinctively hold their breath. "There's someone I've respected for a very long time," he said softly, the gentle timbre of his voice carrying across the silent hall. The crowd began whispering. Some guessed names of actors he had worked with. Others thought he might mention a director, perhaps a family member. The tension was palpable, but still controlled. No one could predict the scale of the storm about to erupt. He hesitated for half a second, allowing the silence to thicken, then said clearly, "Actually, Yoona Sunbeam." For an instant, time seemed to freeze. Even Lee Chae-min looked momentarily surprised by his own words, his eyelids fluttering as if he realized too late that he had just unleashed something uncontrollable. And then it happened, like an explosion detonating from all corners of the hall. The audience erupted in one collective scream so powerful it drowned out the speakers. The shrieking was wild, chaotic, full of disbelief. Fans leapt from their seats, hands flying to their mouths, eyes widening in shock. Some fans screamed Yoona's name back at him as if to confirm what they had just heard. Others grabbed each other, kicking, crying, laughing, unable to contain the emotional overload. It was the kind of reaction usually reserved for unexpected K-pop guest appearances, not for a single mention of a senior actor's name. The sound stretched on and on, a continuous wave that refused to soften. Several fans in the front row buried their faces in their banners, their shoulders shaking as they screamed. One fan live-streaming the moment dropped their phone, and the live-stream continued to broadcast only the ceiling while the fan screamed, "No way," he said, "Yoona. No way. No way," in complete meltdown. On Twitter, fans watching the stream from abroad began posting clips within seconds, hashtags surging as if the entire internet had been waiting for this one chaotic moment. Meanwhile, Lee Chae-min stood frozen in the center of the stage, his face going crimson. He raised his free hand to cover half his face, shoulders curling inward as if trying to hide from the tidal wave of noise crashing over him. He was clearly overwhelmed, His eyes widened, mouth falling open slightly as he tried to process the reaction. It was impossible to hear anything over the chaos, but his expression alone spoke volumes. He laughed silently, shaking his head in disbelief as he took a small step back, almost stumbling from the shock of it all. The host also looked stunned, instinctively turning to check if the speakers were about to burst. When the screams only grew louder, Chae-min mouthed exaggeratedly, "Why? Why?" and the fans screamed even harder in response. Someone yelled from the audience, "Because you said Yoona," and the entire hall erupted once again. The lights flickered slightly as the volume of the cheering reached near concert levels. Staff members standing at the edges of the stage exchanged looks that conveyed a mix of amusement and panic. Clearly no one had expected this level of chaos over a single name. The host finally attempted to regain control of the situation, gesturing to the audience to calm down. But Jakarta was not ready to stop. One group of fans near the left section started chanting Yoona's name rhythmically, and soon half the hall joined in. The echo was thunderous. Lee Chae-min looked completely defeated by the noise, dropping his head and laughing in embarrassment, hair falling over his eyes as he crouched slightly to hide his burning face. When he finally stood up again, he waved both hands frantically as if begging everyone to lower their voices. His laughter, though muted by the noise, was so genuine and boyish that it only made the crowd scream even louder. The screams finally softened. After what felt like nearly a full minute, he leaned into the microphone and said breathlessly, "I meant it sincerely. She's someone who inspires me." But the moment the words she left his mouth, a wave of cracking screams erupted, nearly sending him into full panic. He staggered backwards, clutching the microphone with both hands, laughing so hard he couldn't speak. The host tried again to regain order, urging the crowd to settle down so Chae-min could continue. Jakarta had entered a state of frenzy. The room vibrated with excitement, a mix of admiration, humor, pure disbelief. Somewhere in the venue, I fainted from overexcitement and had to be escorted to the medical booth. Though even then they kept whispering, "Yoona, he really said Yoona." Staff members struggled to maintain control, but even they couldn't hide their amusement. Stage crew member was heard saying jokingly, "Louder than a K-pop encore stage," while others exchanged startled glances as the screams kept swelling like waves in a storm. As the chaos settled, fans began analyzing his every micro-expression in real time. Some pointed out the slight blush dusting his cheeks. Others commented on the way he nervously rubbed the back of his neck when trying to explain himself. Many fans immediately clipped the moment, posting it online with captions like "Chae-min admits his admiration for Yoona," or "Jakarta screams for Queen Yoona." Within minutes, the first set of memes began circulating, comparing his shy reaction to a schoolboy confessing his crush. The hall, however, was still trembling with excitement. The echo of the original scream still floated in the air. Trying to speak over the lingering noise, he raised the microphone again and said with a helpless smile, "Please, don't misunderstand. She is my role model." Even that attempt at clarification only made things worse. Fans screamed again, not as loud as before, with a pitch that clearly indicated they were having the time of their lives. Some fans stood up and bowed dramatically toward the stage, shouting, "Thank you for appreciating Yoona." Another fan started crying tears of happiness while her friend fanned her with a notebook. Despite the overwhelming reaction, the atmosphere remained overwhelmingly joyful. It was pure, unfiltered fan energy, a tidal wave of affection and excitement that swept through the hall, turning a simple answer into the most unforgettable moment of the night. Lee Chae-min seemed to realize this too. After regaining his composure, he placed a hand over his heart and bowed deeply to the audience. His voice trembled slightly with emotion as he said, "Thank you, Jakarta, you really surprised me today." His words only renewed the applause, though this time it was less chaotic and more heartfelt. Eyes were glowing with excitement, some still wiping away tears while others clutched their phones, typing furiously to update fan communities across Asia. Jakarta had not simply reacted, they had erupted, turning one man's honest confession into a legendary fan meeting moment. Even after the explosive eruption had finally calmed enough for the host to proceed, a lingering electricity remained in the air, an undeniable charge that kept every fan wide awake. Every heartbeat synchronized with the man standing at center stage. What should have been just another sweet, harmless fan meeting segment had now become the defining moment of the entire event. One that fans knew they would replay in their minds long after they returned home. The Jakarta International Theatre no longer felt like a venue. It had transformed into a living organism, breathing in unison, trembling with laughter, vibrating with excitement. And Lee Chae-min, visibly flustered, was standing right inside its heart. As he composed himself, the lights softened around him, illuminating his still reddened cheeks. He took a deep breath, the kind someone takes after running a marathon, and offered a sheepish grin. "You all really surprised me," he repeated, this time with a subtle tremor in his voice, half pride, half embarrassment. The fans responded with playful giggles. The entire hall had become a single friend teasing him affectionately. In that laughter, there was warmth, sincerity, tenderness that wrapped around him like a protective blanket, allowed him to finally relax, even if just a little. Jakarta was far from done. The host, amused and eager to steer the atmosphere into a calmer tone, him to elaborate. "Chae-min SSI. Yoona Sunbeam is your inspiration. Can you tell us more? Maybe why she inspires you?" Silence fell once more, not the silence of shock this time, but one of anticipation. Fans leaned closer, phones raised, ready to record every breath, every shift of his expression. Chae-min looked out at the sea of faces, exhaled, began speaking, not hurriedly or nervously now, but with a quiet sincerity that softened even the rowdiest corners of the hall. "When I was younger," he said, "I used to watch her dramas. I admired her professionalism, her grace. She always seemed to carry a certain light with her, a kind of calm confidence I wanted to learn." His voice deepened slightly, gentle yet firm. "Whenever I faced difficult days during my training or debut struggles, I would rewatch her interviews. Seeing how she stayed grounded despite everything, it gave me strength." This time, instead of screaming, the audience responded with a collective, emotional sigh. Many fans placed hands over their hearts, by the sincerity behind his words. It was no longer a funny moment, nor an unexpected shock. It had become a confession bathed in warmth, revealing a side of him that felt human and vulnerable. The camera zoomed in on his face, capturing the way his eyes glowed with authenticity. He wasn't exaggerating. He wasn't performing. He was sharing a piece of himself. Jakarta embraced it with a level of emotional maturity that only a truly dedicated fandom could produce. The piece didn't last long. A fan near the front row suddenly shouted with childlike enthusiasm, "Appa! Does that mean you want to act with Yoona one day?" The entire hall gasped. Chae-min froze again, blinked rapidly, his mouth opening then closing like someone who had accidentally stepped onto a landmine. The host burst into a laugh before he could answer. Fans started shaking in their seats. Someone yelled, "Say yes," another screamed, "Collab. Please collab," and suddenly the hall dissolved into chaos once more. Caught completely off guard, he tried to defend himself, waving both hands as though fending off the noise physically. No, I mean, yes. I mean, of course I would be honored, but, no. I didn't mean it romantically." The more he tried to explain, the worse it became. The fans screamed louder, nearly doubled over laughing. And Chae-min stood paralyzed, eyes wide, face red, pleading for mercy. In that moment, Jakarta saw a side of him that no drama or interview could replicate, pure, unfiltered panic wrapped in irresistible charm. He wasn't an actor delivering lines. He was a young man completely overwhelmed by love and enthusiasm pouring at him like a tidal wave. The immense reaction only fueled a new wave of online frenzy. Clips were uploaded instantly, spreading across Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. Some fans in Korea woke up in the middle of the night to the notification storm, rubbing their eyes in confusion as they read captions like "Chae-min mentions Yoona and Jakarta explodes." He panicked, "OMG. And Lee Chae-min x Yoona? Confirmed." It took less than 15 minutes for keywords related to the event to trend in 5 different countries. But inside the venue, it continued with even more emotion. The host, now fully embracing the chaos, asked him gently, "If Yoona Sunbeam saw this moment, what would you hope she thinks?" The hall went silent instantly. Even the air felt like it stopped moving. Chae-min looked genuinely terrified. The question had forced him to confront some impossible future. He pressed a palm over his face, half laughing, half pleading for the universe to save him from further embarrassment. "Please, don't say things like that," he whispered. And the whisper alone drew screams as though he had confessed undying love. When he finally answered, his voice was low and earnest. "I hope she thinks that I respect her. And that I'm working hard, just like she did." Humility in his tone melted the entire hall. Fans began clapping, not wildly, but gently, like a warm wave. Then something unexpected happened. A fan handed a banner to a staff member, who quickly brought it to the stage. Read, "Yoona will be proud of you." When Chae-min saw it, expression softened instantly. He touched the banner lightly with his fingertips, his eyes glistening with emotion. "Thank you," he whispered. It wasn't loud. Didn't need to be. The sincerity behind those two words filled the entire venue. The rest of the fan meeting carried a beautiful, emotional glow. It was as if the Yoona moment had cracked something open inside him, his shyness, his pride, his vulnerability, and allowed Jakarta to see the most human version of Lee Chae-min. He interacted more freely, more openly, and even teased the fans back about their reactions. "Say another name. Will you scream again?" he joked. And the hall answered with a unanimous roar of yes. During one segment where he performed a short cover of a Korean OST, fans held up phone flashlights, lighting a silver ocean inside the hall. He paused midway through the performance, his gaze sweeping across the glowing sea of lights. Something in that sight seemed to strike him deeply. The smile he gave in that moment was different from earlier. It was calmer, heartfelt, more connected. Toward the end, he shared another reflective thought. "Jakarta, I will remember this night for a very, very long time. Your voices, your reactions, hearts. I felt all of it." His tone was almost fragile, as though emotion threatened to spill over. Fans responded with cheers, but softer ones, thankful ones. A kind of mutual gratitude filled the space, weaving the audience and the artist together with invisible thread. It's finally time to say goodbye. He walked slowly along the edge of the stage, waving, making eye contact, placing his hand over his heart repeatedly. Fans shouted messages of love in Korean, English, Indonesian, each voice reaching out to him. He bowed 3 times, deep, sincere bows that carried the weight of gratitude. The lights dimmed slowly, and the hall seemed to sigh as he walked backstage for the last time that night. But the story didn't end there. Inside the venue, fans continued screaming, playing the Yoona moment over and over. Cars honked in celebration. Fans cried tears of laughter, saying things like, "I can't believe he said Yoona, and Jakarta will never recover from this." Some even claimed that this fan meeting surpassed concerts by major K-pop groups in terms of intensity and emotional impact. For them, it wasn't just a moment, it was a memory destined to become part of fan folklore. Something Indonesian fans would proudly claim forever. Back in the green room, Chae-min reportedly sat down on the sofa, still red-faced, still smiling shyly as staff teased him about the reaction. One staff member joked, "You just created history in Jakarta." Chae-min covered his face with both hands, groaning in embarrassment. But beneath that embarrassment was a quiet pride. He had touched thousands of hearts just by being honest about a woman he respected deeply. And somewhere in Seoul, far away from the roaring screams of Jakarta, there was perhaps a quiet chance, just a small one, that Yoona herself would stumble upon the viral clip. She would smile. Because in Jakarta, that night, single name, spoken with sincerity, became a spark that set an entire city ablaze.